G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, review of the week time as always. Thank you once again as always to the Hit Company for sponsoring this video. Link to their website is in the description. Let's talk boxing. So there was a couple of cards on last night. Now I didn't catch up on the DAZN show yet, and if anyone has, because I tried to watch it this morning, I tried to look at it in the gym, I tried to find links and copies everywhere, could not find a copy of Brandon Figueroa versus Mark Mixeo. If anyone does have a copy of it or can send me a link to where I can watch the full fight, please feel free to message me on Twitter. It's at BoxingGman, because I can't find it anywhere. I looked everywhere, Daily Motion. I know PBC are bad like that. You know, whenever they have a fight, that's gone. Like you have literally about an hour, a finite hour to watch that fight on YouTube, and it's gone. It's gone for days. So I only really caught up on the card that was on last night, which was Lewis Richardson versus Ohara Davies. And again, it was sad to see that this was a good domestic level dust up. You know, it was fairly, Ohara Davies was in control for the most parts, but it was a good little scrap of what it was. And just to see how dead, like, there was no real atmosphere in the arena. It was half empty. You know, it didn't look a particularly big arena, truth be told. And it was the Newcastle arena. And the fact that this was only picked up by Fight TV is one of the reasons I didn't get a chance to see a lot of the undercard fights, because trying to find a means to watch it without going down the Fight TV route was difficult. It was pretty difficult. But thank God, Hatman's Element, there's a couple of good guys in there. They took me a few links, which one eventually worked. So we got there in the end. In terms of the undercard, I see Thomas Patrick Ward. He got beat. He got knocked out in 5 rounds. Patrick Ward looked awful on the scales on Friday, I felt. I was looking at little clips of the weigh and I was like, oh, he doesn't look good. Lee McGregor had his first fight back in over 13 months. He had an 8-round decision over Alexis Cabora. Now, Lee McGregor, he was on fine form in the back end of 2020 going into 21. He was really looking well. He was getting a couple of first round knockouts. I think he'd won a European title as well. He was going through pretty quick. You know, he was doing very well at domestic level. There was talk of a rematch after Fight Camp in 2021. Now, Lee McGregor didn't fight on Fight Camp, but there was talk of him having a rematch with Cash Farouk. And obviously, if you've never seen their first fight, it was a great fight. There was a lot of controversy. A lot of people felt Lee McGregor got the nod. A lot of people felt that Cash Farouk was very unlucky and they were going to run it back. Obviously, that ended when I don't think it was long after Fight Camp, or maybe it was. I know it was 21, I think. Maybe it was last year. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the exact dates. Maybe it was actually last year that Cash Farouk suddenly announced his retirement from boxing. I don't know the reasons why, and it was sad because he was such a talented fighter. You know, obviously he took the loss against McGregor, but that was a very, very close fight. Could have gone either way, and I was looking forward to the rematch. Eddie Hearn had him signed, and he was looking really, really good, really talented fighter. So I was looking forward to seeing what he'd do. But he bowed out, and that put the kibosh on the Lee McGregor rematch, obviously. So McGregor fought the guy whose name escapes me, something Luis, I can't remember his name. He just recently beat Gabal Yafai on the DAZN's last show. So he fought him last year, I think it was last February in Bolton, and he got a draw. I felt he was unlucky, to be fair, Lee McGregor in that fight, not to get the nod. He definitely did. He definitely had his work out in that fight, and he really underperformed. But he did enough, I felt, to win the fight. He didn't fight, obviously, until last night, which was strange because he was doing quite well. Obviously, Lee McGregor, I think, fell victim to that managerial company, which is no longer around anymore. And, you know, I think that kind of derailed a few things, as it did for a lot of fighters. A lot of fighters kind of had to stop and think, okay, what do we do now? So I think that's not helped him. But it's his first fight in over a year, just to dust off the cobwebs, so to speak. And obviously, main event was Lewis Richardson versus Ohara Davies. I've already done a post-fight review on that, but I'll talk about it a little bit more here. It was a good fight. I thought that Richardson did quite well early on. I thought Ohara Davies looked a bit slow and static early on, But once he started really putting his punches together and finding his range, it was curtains. It was inevitable that Lewis Ritson was going to get taken out. It looked as though it would be a headshot, but then Ohara Davis started going to the body. And as I said in the post-fight review, they were saying on commentary that Team Ritson were saying that they felt the body was a weak point of Davis. I'm not sure how they felt that. I've never seen Davis noticeably hurt to the body. When Josh Taylor had him down, it was headshots. So I don't know where that kind of came into it, but the person who looked to have the fragile body was Lewis Ritson, because obviously he's been stopped by body shots before, like against Ponce. So that was exactly what happened here again. Body shots from Ohara Davis wore Lewis Ritson down, and then it was a real, that. I was looking at that shot again today. That body shot in the 9th round, that was a real sickener. I mean, that was when you look at the shot, you can just know, you just feel, you're like, oof, that was a sickener, and that was the shot that Ohara Davis landed on Lewis Ritson, took him out. It's going to be an interesting one now, because Davis could get a crack at the WBA title. Now, Rolly Romero is going to fight for that. I can't see Rolly winning, but that division at the upper echelons, as I said, it's a stacked division. It's a tough division. Ohara Davis is a good puncher. He has those long arms. He knows how to use them, but I see his skill repertoire as being very limited to just kind of using your long arms and punching. But he's not a Floyd Mayweather type, and he's obviously nowhere near as good as Floyd Mayweather. But what I mean is, he's able to just control it throughout by keeping you at range. Adonis Stevenson was very good at that as well. Someone again who had long arms, in comparative to his height, because Stevenson was only 5'11", but he was outreaching guys like Bellew who were 6'3", and Bellew wasn't able to land a glove on Adonis Stevenson in their fight, because Stevenson was just able to keep him away with arm length. Now, Ohara Davis, whilst he has really long levers, really long, his opponents are able to get inside him. Several reasons for that. I mean, if you look at Ohara Davis's footwork, it's very poor. It's very poor. It's never developed over the years. So a lot of fighters find it actually quite easy to get into range so they can land their shots. The problem is when you're pulling out like Lewis Ritson was doing here, you think you're at a safe range and you're getting caught with counters. That's the problem. But I think at the upper echelons of the 140-pound division, I think they're going to be well tuned in, and they're going to know exactly what to do. Even if you look at European level guys at 140, I'd give Ohara Davis very little chance over someone like a Sandor Martin, to be honest with you. Sandor Martin's a very, very good fighter. So, it's going to be tough for Ohara Davis moving forward. Lewis Ritson, he released a statement where he talked about, having maybe a few more days out down the country and stuff like that, but maybe not on the big stage. So, I wonder, is Lewis Ritson just going to maybe take a step back, fight on a couple of small hall shows, or just a couple of shows, somewhere down in the country and stuff like that, and just reflect on things. It's hard to believe he is only 29 years old. I know with the shaved head he looks older, because he used to have hair and he used to let his, not really grow long, but he had the hair and also he looked younger. But now that he shaved it, he looks older than 29. He looked, but even in terms of his movement in there against Ohara Davis, he looked the older of the two, even though he's 2 years younger. So that was the fight that happened in the UK. Obviously, I didn't see the Mark Mixeo Brandon Figueroa fight. It looked to be a good fight from the few little highlights I seen, the few little clips. And Brandon Figueroa winning quite a wide, I saw the scorecards, quite a wide decision. I obviously saw that Jared Hurd made his comeback last night after his loss nearly 2 years ago now to Lewis Arias. Lewis Arias, I think is the guy's name. The guy who fought Danny Jacobs, and he lost to Luke Keeler as well. He took an L last night. He got stopped for the first time in his career in the 10th round. And honestly, I'm not surprised. Jared Hurd really is an overachiever, in my opinion. He won a world title off Tony Harrison, and I think that was a vacant title, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was the WBA. He won the vacant WBA because Charlo had the WBC. He won the vacant WBA against Tony Harrison. I think it was vacant anyway. And then he unified against Erislandy Lara. And that was for Lara's IBF title, I believe, was on the line. And a lot of people really got gassed about that fight. When he beat Lara. I bear in mind, it was a split decision. It was a close fight. People were putting Hurd on pound for pound lists. And I was looking at Jared Hurd thinking, what? this guy isn't doing anything. You know, he's taken an awful lot of shots. He's not hard to find. He's not hard to hit. He's just marauding forward with no head movement, no anything, just bludgeoning his opponents. And one of the reasons why he's able to take the shots so well is because the size difference is absolutely ridiculous between Hurd and his opponents. I mean, that guy at 154, and he would always say it in kind of a, it's brilliant, isn't it, that he was cutting down from above light heavyweight, basic cruiserweight. And it's like, wait, he's literally doing it. He's a Chavez 2.0. I think he's a bit better than Chavez, but that's essentially what Hurd was doing. So when he fought someone like J-Rock, who was able to find him with uppercuts, and, you know what, I suppose, like, it's not even just J-Rock. I mean, he took loads of shots against Tony Harrison. He took loads of shots against Erislandy Lara. He got outboxed by Jason Wellborn for a couple of rounds on the undercard of Fury versus Wilder 1. Imagine that. Jason Wellborn's a British level fighter. And I remember at the time, there was people who had Hurd on pound for pound lists, and there was all talk about Hurd versus Jamel Charlo. And people were like, you know, that's such a competitive fight. I was like, no, it's not. No, it is not. Charlo won't be able to miss Jared Hurd if he fights him. That's what I was thinking at the time. And when I saw him against Wellborn, I was like, that is just, what the hell was that? You know, yeah, he got the win, but what the hell was that? Getting boxed by Jason Wellborn? He lost his next fight, Jason Wellborn, for, I think it was a Commonwealth title, to JJ Metcalf. So I was just like, that's crazy. So obviously, then he got beat by J-Rock. He lost to Luis Arias, and that's pretty much been it. He doesn't look anything near the way he looked 5 or 6 years ago. You know, he's not that old, is Hurd. I think he's only 31, 32, so it's not like he's old, but he's just taken so many shots in his career. He didn't have any real boxing fundamentals, and when he did try and box, he actually tried to box against Jason Wellborn, he looked even worse. So, you know, that is, like, he's unified world titles at 154 pounds, so you can't take that away from him, but boy, was he ever overhyped. So I just could never understand what the fuss was. I was like, he's just big. It's just big and just marauds forward and just bludgeons people, that's it. So Hurd's taking another L. We'll see what he'll do next. In terms of some of the boxing news that's going around, I saw this being reported, so I think it was it Boxing King Media? I think it was those guys who interviewed Steffi Bull, I think it was, who said that Maxie Hughes is no longer with Eddie Hearn, that they've parted ways. And I was kind of like, why? Because that seemed like it was going well. I mean, he main evented against Kid Galahad last fight, beat Kid Galahad, Maxie Hughes, and it looked like he was going to get a crack at a world title sooner or later. You know, maybe when Devin Haney comes back to the zone, after the Lomachenko fight, win or lose, whatever, it looked like he'd get that fight. Talk about Gary Cully as well. So I was kind of like, okay, why is he leaving? But apparently he had something lined up. As being reported here, I'm seeing several sources say that Maxie Hughes will defend, because obviously he has the IBO lightweight world title, against George Kambosos. The fight will take place in either May or June. It'll be either in the US or in Australia. So Maxie Hughes will be the comeback opponent for George Kambosos. Interesting. Now, Kambosos, obviously he's had back-to-back losses to Devin Haney. Now, neither fight he took really a tremendous amount of damage, you'd have to say. So it's not like he's coming back off the back of two hellacious beatings or anything like that. He didn't take any real beatings. He was just outboxed both times. Campbells is a good fighter. You know, he stylistically just didn't measure up to Devin Haney, but he is a good fighter. So him against Maxie Hughes is a very much improved fighter. Maxie Hughes is a great story for people in boxing. You know, I think he's got 4 or 5 losses, but this is a guy who was always the kind of last minute call up type of fighter. He had no real management company manage him at the start. He was working a job. I think he worked on a build. I've interviewed Maxie Hughes actually. I think he was working on a building site at the time, and he was actually telling me in that interview, it was a couple of years ago now, that literally had to get up in the morning, run, work, drive down the country to go sparring on the weekends, and then back to work Monday morning. So it was a crazy kind of way he was doing it, and obviously he was able to go full time with Eddie Hearn. He's obviously signed a deal with Eddie Hearn. He was obviously managed by that company at the time as well, who we won't name. But it showed that when he was able to go at it full time, how good he actually was and how much of an improvement he made. And he's obviously trained by Sean O'Hagan, who's got a lot of criticism for the way Josh Warrington has been lately. But I think that's more so Josh Warrington as opposed to Sean O'Hagan. I mean, you look at Maxi Hughes, he's not the fighter that he was 5 years ago. It's night and day. Tremendous for Maxi Hughes. It really is. So, him against Campbells, it's an interesting fight. I don't know why he had to leave Eddie Hearn necessarily. And look, if a better opportunity comes up with a better promoter, you take it. You don't stick around. But I'm just wondering, because Campbells is only, he's not with Bob Arum. I don't think he is anyway. He's with DeBella. Didn't think DeBella and Hearn had any beef, or that would be an issue. Unless maybe Eddie Hearn had different plans for Campbells, or not Campbells, for Maxi Hughes. Maybe he wanted him to fight a Gary Cully, and maybe this was... And again, look, hey, if Maxi Hughes is getting way better money and he sees this fight as a bigger opportunity, fighting Campbells, take it. You go your separate way. But I'm just curious as to why you had to split. That's just the only reason why I'm asking. Like, if Bob Arum comes along and says, hey, I've got a fight with the winner of Haney Lomachenko and 7 figures, and Hearn's offering you Gary Cully, you take the arm off Bob Arum. Seriously. And then if someone else comes and you beat them, just saying hypothetically you do, and someone else comes along like Golden Boy and offers you more money with more opportunities, what do? You say, Bob Arum, I'm going to stay with you? Nah, you say, see you later. Because you want to make money and get out with your faculties. You don't want to be bound to one promoter. And, maybe this promoter's run his course, or, maybe he's not the powerhouse he was and stuff, and you're stuck in that stable almost. You don't want that to happen. So, if it's true, it's a good fight. Let's see how it goes. Here we go. This week is going to be a big week, because I think this week will really dictate if we get. Well, we will. I'm holding out hope that we will get it this year. But April 29th, you know where I'm going with this, looking more unlikely more into this coming week. So Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk are still at an impasse with no deal yet. It's claimed there is hope of a breakthrough deal for the undisputed heavyweight world title fight on April 29th at Wembley, but the clock is still ticking. Realistically, this week you would probably want to know, because this coming Saturday will be into March the 11th, and the following week we're in the middle of March. That leaves roughly 6 to 7 weeks for this fight to be signed. Well, if it's signed this week, you have to market it, your press conferences, etc. How far into camp are both guys? I know Usyk is. How far into camp is Fury, etc. The longer it goes, the more unlikely it is that it's going to be on April the 29th. That's not to say it won't happen, but I would say unlikely that it's going to be on April the 29th. Look, I hope we get this fight. I really do. The Fury fanboys, they'll give Fury a pass, which they shouldn't if he goes whatever way. And I won't accept that. Likewise with Alexander Usyk, if he decides, I'm going to go my separate ways, I'm going to fight Joshua a third time. No. You want undisputed? You fight Fury. Same way, I won't accept anything other from both guys. The only thing is that I've already seen it. I've already seen it in comments on videos, on other people's videos, that if Fury, because I believe that if one of these guys is going to F this fight up, it's going to be Tyson Fury, because Alexander Usyk has no track history. I mean, this is Alexander Usyk. People be like, I see it in comments, like, Usyk's being difficult to negotiate. Usyk goes into people's backyards and fights them. He's not got a history of being difficult to negotiate with. Tyson Fury, well, the Joshua debacle that we had the end of last year, the Dylan White fight in 2019 that could have happened, put the iron belt on the line. Okay, we will. Now I'll fight Tom Schwartz out of Alin instead. You can go on. David Price going back 10 years. David Price, Frank Maloney, there you go, 500 grand. No, I'll fight Steve Cunningham in the States. Alright? And again, he would have beat David Price. I think we all agree on that. But it's the fact that you can see this shenanigans going back then. And I'm telling you now, if this fight does fall through and we have to wait, or God forbid we don't get it at all, I would say the more likely culprit will be Tyson Fury. The more likely of the two, anyway, given track history. Now, if it's Alexander Usyk, he'll get it as well. Don't get me wrong. But Alexander Usyk doesn't have a history of this. He doesn't. You know, he does it. He's fought... Where are we talking? He's fought Glowacki for his first title in Poland. He fought Hook in Germany. He fought Hunter in America. He fought Gassiev in Russia. He fought Briedis in Latvia. He fought Bellew in the UK. He fought Chisora in the UK. And he fought Joshua in the UK. I mean, talk about a road warrior. You'd nearly want to fight him in his own country because you think, Jesus, this guy, whenever he goes on the road, he wins. So, look, I hope to God they can get this fight over the line. I really do. I really, truly do. I really hope that they can come to an agreement and they can get this fight done, ticked, signed, sealed. Let's go. In terms of fights that are signed and sealed for April, Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia, April 22nd, we obviously know. The El Giant Stadium or T-Mobile Arena are the places that they are likely to have it. Now, I don't know where that stadium is, but I obviously know the T-Mobile Arena is in Vegas. I would assume that other stadium is in Las Vegas as well. So we are getting the venue arranged for Tank versus Ryan. I can't wait for that fight. Looking forward to it. Oh man, I can't wait. When boxing gets it right with fights like that can be made, and we get them made, it just perfect. So obviously last week it was announced that Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano was off. Not necessarily the card, but the Amanda Serrano was the opponent gone. So she obviously had an injury, and it looked as though that was kind of all over the place. Well, Katie Taylor went on to Instagram to call out Chantel Cameron, of all people. Let's get it done, Eddie Hearn. The homecoming has waited long enough. The Tree Arena, which is like, it's not a bad arena, but it's only a little bit bigger than the Wembley Arena. It's only like an extra 1,000 people is available. So let's give Ireland a night to remember on May the 20th. Let's go, Chantel Cameron. Happy to move up in weight for an opportunity to become a two-weight undisputed. What happened to McGregor paying for Croke Park? Obviously, that didn't happen, obviously. So, Katie Taylor versus Chantel Cameron. I actually seen Eddie Hearn say that he believes there's a very good chance that Katie Taylor will face Chantel Cameron for the undisputed 140-pound title. So, let's keep an eye on that one. Now, Conor Benn has given an exclusive first interview since his positive drugs test. It's going to air on Monday. Do you want to know who it is, lads? Do you want to know who it is? Do you want to know who it is? It's with the diabolical, horrendous, despicable Piers Morgan. Like, he couldn't have given an interview to someone worse. Of all the people he is to give, he gives it to him. Really. Oh, I can't watch that. I do not like Piers Morgan at all. I think that's pretty much mutual amongst most people. Horrible man is Morgan. He really is. Of all the people you give an interview with, you give it to Piers Morgan. Like, really. Anyway, in terms of other news on Conor Benn, Manny Pacquiao Promotions rep Sean Gibson has stated that Pacquiao is now back in training. Oh, good lord. And is seeking a fight to bring him out of retirement at age 44. He's welcomed the fight with Conor Benn, despite Benn's positive drug test situation. Why? Manny Pacquiao fought nearly 2 years ago. He didn't look particularly good against Yordenis Ugas. He lost that fight. I just don't get it. At age 44, I just don't get it. And I just don't get why you'd want to make that fight for Conor Benn, when there are actual live welterweights you could put him in there with. I mean, Chris McKinson, for the love of God. You know, what does beating a 44-year-old Manny Pacquiao actually do? Like, realistically, what does it actually do? Because that's not the Manny Pacquiao who fought Margarito. That's not the Pacquiao who fought De La Hoya. I mean, it's 15 plus years? Maybe nearly 15 years since he fought De La Hoya? Seriously, like, what the... No. And I don't mean that for Conor Benn. I mean it in general. If Manny Pacquiao comes back, what do you gain by beating a 44-year-old Manny Pacquiao at this point? If that's Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, etc. What do you get by beating a 40-foot? You don't get anything. Because that's not the Manny Pacquiao we know and love in terms of a boxing sense. Just, no, I'd rather he just... That day is gone. He really should have called it after beating Keith Thurman. I mean, going out like that would have been just... I mean, that just would have been perfect. Because I didn't think he'd beat Keith Thurman. That surprised me. Big time. I knew Thurman, even in 2019, was starting to show signs he was on the decline. But I just thought Thurman, at least now he's had a fight. He's fought twice in a year for the first time in God knows how long. This is back in 2019. He should be sharp enough to get through a 40-year-old Pacquiao. Nope. The ageless warrior. But against Ugas, he looked his age. He did. Callum Smith versus Powell Stephan is off on March the 11th. I don't know how many of us were looking forward to that, but just so you know, it's off. He's pulled out due to an injury. Show will still go ahead with Diego Pacquiao versus Jack Cullen and Robbie Davis Jr. versus Dara Foley. You see, that's going up against Tony Yoka versus Carlos Takam. And it's also on that French show, which is being shown on Sky Sports in collaboration with Boxer, is Dan Aziz versus, I can't remember the guy's name. And I'm more compelled to see Dan Aziz in that European light heavyweight title fight, as well as seeing, I'm pretty sure I know the result of Piccoli versus Takam, but I still am more invested in that than this DAZN card does not look good. It doesn't look amazing. And I wasn't looking forward to Callum Smith fighting. I believe he's the second best light heavyweight in Poland. You know, obviously Callum Smith has a crack against Beterbiev. Course they don't want to take risks, but really, he could probably get someone a bit more formidable than that. So, I think... Now, obviously, there was the Misfit show on last night. I didn't watch it. People were saying the tag team boxing looked ridiculous. I don't know. I didn't watch it. So, I'm not really paying massive amounts of attention to that. In terms of everything else, I think that's pretty much it. So... Obviously, it's been a decent week of boxing news, stuff like that coming out, and obviously fights being talked about, etc. So, we should have plenty to discuss this coming week. I did see, someone posted it in the Elements group, a picture of Billy Joe Saunders, obviously out for a meal with his friends and whoever it was, family or something. The comeback, I will be saying, don't hold your breath, because he is still looking big. So, whenever that comeback happens, I would imagine it's not going to be this side of the year anyway. June plus. That's what I'm thinking, because again, he still looks big. So I wouldn't imagine Billy Joe with the comeback is going to be happening anytime soon. And I imagine he's probably going to wait and look to see, if Eubank does fight Liam Smith, because obviously he's announced that he's activating the rematch clause. When will that fight happen? And maybe he'll look to target the winner of that fight. Maybe he'll fight in the undercard. Who knows? If it happens late enough in the year. You just don't know how long it'll be before they announce a rematch, you know. Very seldom these days you get quick turnarounds for a rematch. Sometimes you do, but it doesn't happen too often nowadays. Normally it's about a 6 to 7, maybe sometimes 8 month wait before obviously you have a fight and boom, we're back in the ring. So wait and see what the story is there. In terms of everything else, I leave yous there. I hope you all have a good week, people. I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button as always if you could. Hit subscribe as always again if you haven't already. I'll leave you with that, as I say at the end of all of these. I hope you have a great week. I hope everyone is keeping well. Hope you all get some good news this week, myself included. I really hope so. And yeah, you know, it's been a weird one. These last few weeks I've been like, it's been a lot going on that I'm thinking of doing with the channel moving forward, updating a few things. And obviously I'm in the stages of building at the minute, but I'm kind of... There's a lot of stuff going on in the background with that as well, which I'm thinking of doing as well. So it's a bit of an interesting time. But I won't bore you with that. I hope everyone else has a great one, has a great week. Hope we all get some good news this week. And yeah, I'll leave you with that. Smash the like button if you could as well, lads. Thanks as always to the Hughes company for sponsoring the video. I know you love seeing the little logo up there on the right hand side. For now, I'll leave you with that. Peace.